Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for once again being the Maxi Toys videos. And yes, welcome back to more Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles for the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis. So yes, last time we actually did manage to tackle through Lava Reef Zone, Hidden Power Zone to deal out with Knuckles the Echidna, and also we're actually going to be managed to explore Sky Sanctuary Zone. And today for this episode, we're about to continue on and move on into the next zone. In this case, if I can tell, the last zone to actually feature 2 acts in one zone. So, this is known as the Death Egg Zone. Wait, why Death Egg Zone? Well, apparently this used to be exactly the same name as so much so to how it does in the last level in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. However, unlike in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, that you have to deal with the last 2 bosses in order to actually just finish up the act on that particular Sonic 2 version of Death Egg Zone. However, though, this time around there is actually fully levels from Act 1 and Act 2, so I know to expect it much like any other zones in particular is that we have to deal with those 2 bosses at the end of each act. So that's just how simple it goes though, basically. So yeah, that's all you usually can get. So, there's going to be a lot of hazards involved in here and there. Like, for instance, there's actually electricity stuff as you probably expected. And keep that in mind, though, is that you know with the electricity shield, I mentioned this like a dozen amount of times already. This level in particular might be a godsend for electric shield, honestly, because it actually protects you from actually not getting hurt by the electric stuff. So, even then, though, take this level for example, that you know the electricity sparks might actually try to hurt you a bit. Well, if you get your electric shield with you, that means you actually be completely invulnerable to it. So, yeah, not that bad actually to actually just use that. So. And then another thing is worth mentioning though is that unlike in also from the Death Egg Zone from Sonic 2 is that you actually have rings instead of no rings. And obviously judging by the fact that how, you know, in the last zone in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 you have to deal with no rings just like how it does in the last final zone from Sonic 1. But even then though, except you have to deal with 2 bosses in the end, which is Silver Sonic and also the Death Egg Robot. So anyway, so there are some plenty of gimmicks here and there, like these, like for instance, this little moving elevation platform right there. If you somehow manage to jump off and then try to jump back on it, sometimes you actually change directions from either left or right. So even then, I thought it's worth mentioning for those parts, especially if you want to actually grab these rings instantly. But even then, oh yeah, you can if you can tell already that these little electricity stuff does not even flicker at all, unless if you actually play this on the regular TV. Because again, you know the capture cards look like in some of these Mega Drive games or Sega Genesis games, they usually have some bit of lacking in flickeriness. So, anyway. So yeah, as far as the discussion we'd like to discuss about is that there aren't anything news about it for the most part, besides the fact that unfortunately though, if you guys would be very curious to actually just be looking forward until when Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Let's Play is about to be coming up, at least in the redo Let's Play of Sonic 4, you know, the ones with Episode 1, Episode 2, and even Episode Metal. Unfortunately though, that playthrough was going to get delayed until next couple or so months, until when it gets to June. Probably due to the fact that we need to actually complete this game done until, well, not just at the end of this month, which is on April, but more so to the beginning of May, or something roughly that time. So, that's why how that particular redo left playthrough of Sonic 4 was decided to go ahead and do a little bit of a delay stuff. And plus, you know, as we expected, some other couple of Let's Plays that we need to currently finish. Like, for instance, me and Styx are still currently going through Super Mario 64 DS recently, and also that judging by the fact that me and Sylvester are also going to come back onto Super Mario 3D World at one point or another. Even then though, me and Sylvester hasn't recorded Super Mario 3D World for quite some time now. And also that judging by the fact that Sylvester hasn't, I'm assuming Sylvester actually, so even then though, that he hasn't fully recorded Banjo-Tooie stuff just yet though, so anywho. So yeah, that's all we're really going to be going for this point, ladies and gentlemen. It's just that it has been quite a few days since we're actually going to be recording some of the stuff for the time. So even then, though, that I will try to actually completely done with this game from now on. But and also besides the point that it's a good thing that I decided to actually just make a decision to make Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Let's Play, redo Let's Play to make a delay, because obviously Sonic Mania is not going to come out until, unfortunately, when it gets to that point, until September, so even then I have to wait during that time. So, anyway, taking a note from before when Sonic Rush came around, that usually has like a countdown right there, so you can actually do like an autopilot sequence here, which I found was kind of cool by the looks of it. So we actually go through rings and all that stuff. So yeah, I found this to be a little bit of a highlight of this particular zone to me. So and usually in the Act 1 of Death Egg Zone, that it usually takes place inside the Death Egg Zone. So yeah, that's all. It's pretty obvious at this point. Anyways, on to the next sub-boss, and if I would like to call it, the final sub-boss in the entirety of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and this is called the Red Eye. Yeah, because you can tell there's actually a little bit of a red eye color onto this little center of the boss. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes if you don't have all of these Chaos Emeralds or Super Emeralds, but basically every time you hit him, then one of these little ball eggshells there decides to actually shoot out those little projectiles every time you destroy it or you're trying to hit him. And if you get to the second phase, much like how it does it on I'm assuming the heat arms from Lava Reef Zone, is that you're gonna have to take care of the actual Red Eye itself. And take a note until when it gets to the point until Secret Plan Zone in the latest, on this case, the future Sonic game. Well, usually it comes from the Game Boy, oh no, not Game Boy, Neo Geo Pocket Color called Sonic Pocket Adventure. That it's a bit like whenever you're trying to stand onto those platforms right there, you should be able to actually just deal the damage of the Red Eye. So it kind of reminds me of like a boss battle from Sonic Pocket Adventure for some reason, but except the fact I'm pretty sure it actually spews out some spikes on the those platforms underneath it, so it might be very similar to one another. So anyways, now we move on to Act 2 of Death Egg Zone, and we're now going to be in the outside version of that Death Egg Zone. So, yeah, I apologize for my voice has gone a little bit too wild, mainly, because of, you know, haven't had a drink since then, so even then I probably should just able to grab myself the juice until whenever I finish recording session on this. So, yeah, in case if you probably couldn't tell already, I'm actually felt really excited about during today recently. It's probably because recently Nintendo Live has been recently shown the footage of the next footage of Sonic Forces on specifically on Nintendo Switch and Xbox One and especially PlayStation 4 and PC version. What that shows us is that basically it showcased the first stage of classic Sonic's gameplay, which as you expect is Green Hill Zone all over again. So, but again, it does remind me of almost related to Sonic Generations basically, because you know the gameplay itself feels more likely identical to Sonic Generations as far as classic Sonic sequence, as far as I'm concerned. So, anyway. And now we ended up in this little anti-gravity segment, which usually comes staple until the future Sonic games, specifically the 2D Sonic games. Most notably on Sonic Advance 1's Cosmic Angel Zone, and also Egg Utopia in Sonic Advance 2, and I believe Cybertrack in Sonic Advance 3. So I think that's the only games I can think of for that one point or another. So, and also you're gonna, in order to actually go all the way back to upside down to upside right up, is the fact that you're gonna have to get onto this little door so that it can actually transfer you into, you don't actually go up to the ceilings or just go back on solid ground. So, a little interesting for this little concept altogether, so you should probably notice by this at this point in time. So, and also that the reason why I decided to actually let Sonic 4 redo Let's Play to make it a little bit of a delay until we get to June sometime, because of the E3 2017 is going to be on its way, and plus not to mention Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles is going to be a very, very big game. So even then I decided to actually just say it this much. So. Anywho, but even then, we pretty much at the end of, almost towards the end of the Sonic and Tails' playthrough. And by the way, if you those who be very curious about something, is that obviously I've already mentioned this like countless amount of times, is the fact that I decided to actually showcase the, well, I'm not going for the whole game again with Tails, but even then I just want to showcase what the Tails exclusive features for him. But when we get to the third playthrough of, obviously from this entire game, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, is that I will definitely going to do the Knuckles' playthrough, because, you know, Knuckles' playthrough might act out very differently from Sonic's and Tails' playthrough once we get into him later. So, anyway, for the most part, now we got to constantly getting used to what this little anti-gravity movement is as far as I'm concerned, because obviously that controls might actually feel a little bit weird at one point or another. But anyway, right now I've got ourselves 41 ups back. And another thing is worth mentioning though is the fact that I was originally going to be doing a little bit of a, oh, I don't know what the hell is going on with this little flickering problem right there with the, the countdown thing. Even though, I mentioned this countless amount of times just for a capture card's sake, so anyway. I guess there's another thing is worth mentioning though, is that if you ever played Sonic & Knuckles Collection via the PC version, sometimes that, usually in some of these zones, most likely Carnival Night and Ice Cap and even Launch Bay Zone do have their alternate music, so even then that's one thing I had to point this out. I think I haven't not mentioned about this in this particular playthrough yet, don't I? I don't think I have, although I may be wrong about that, but anyway. So yeah, and then there's also oh, how dare you. Anyways, let's go transform to Hypersonic for right now, so even though I won't do that for a very long time until when it gets to the point I need to get even a lot more rings, and especially the protective shield, most notably the electric shield, even though sadly I lost that due to the enemy contact and all that stuff. But before we actually get into the next boss in the game, let's just go ahead and grind ourselves some extra rings and additional items. So for instance, I might grab ourselves the flame shields most likely, and I think we might actually get even a lot more rings than I thought it was going to be like. So there's another one here. Ah, we're off by 7 rings. Well, that's okay by me, because I think we actually reached up to 100 already, so 103. Anyway, so now we move on into the next boss battle in the game, which I believe this is known as the Death Ball. This is gonna be a lot more tricky for some people if you're actually first time playing for this particular boss battle. But even then, as long as you get enough practice with this particular fight, especially when you're getting used to it with this little anti-gravity segment, basically this weak spot is not to mention you're gonna have to be sure you need to actually let this little trail of these little spiky enemies can actually go hit onto the bottom part of the battle, or in this case this Death Ball. However, when it gets to hit to the top, it does not count, so even then you have to be sure you need to actually aim at the very bottom at least, because that will deal the damage. Because yeah, as you can tell right there, that the Death Ball actually holds up to 2 shields. What that does is that it actually protects himself from us, so even then though, if you're trying to actually jump on him, then you can't, because he's actually got he's very protective for the most part, because obviously every time you move around, the shield actually constantly moving around. So even then, though, that's what it represents whenever you decide to jump onto this Death Ball. So, but again, it takes a little bit of practice on this particular fight. But as long as you actually get paying attention to that timing and what have you, you should be able to do it just as average. So, anyways, it's time for Hypersonic again. So. Even then though, that if you actually be using Hypersonic in this fight, you won't able to win. So even then though, that's as long as you actually have yourself some rings to begin with. So yeah, for the most part, it's gonna take a lot of practice on this fight, so even then, that's all there is to know about. So, and obviously it only has like 8 hits to your disposal, so, and yeah, you can't take your time either, because as you expected, if the time limit reaches up to like 9 minutes and 59 seconds, you obviously have to do the, you get yourself a time over basically, so that's all there is to really think about, so. And if you think about this zone is practically going to be over, oh yeah, by the way, with this little sprite with Dr. Robotnik that he uses his control panel, it feels very similar to how it does it for the Flying Battery Zone, so. Anyways, if you think about this zone was about to be over, well, it turns out it isn't, because now we ended up in this one gigantic Robotnik contraption that Robotnik's using for this whole entire time, and this is known as the Kodai Eggman Robo, which is pretty big by the looks of it. But basically, this guy is pretty simple, as long as you actually pay attention. If you actually get yourselves all of these Super Rambles, especially Chaos Symbols, as Supersonic or something like that. For this first phase, you have to deal with these fingers, much like how it does it for the hand itself from the Lava Reef Zone first boss fight, which was Heat Arms. But instead of like attacking the hand itself, is to attack these little fingertips. And if you deal with all 6 of them, then you move on to the next segment. So I believe the second segment is going to be a little bit harder compared to the first segment, because in the second segment, all you do is just basically you're going to have to attack its weak spot, which is actually into its core, but you're going to have to attack this little red part first until you actually deal the damage of it. So, and yeah, you're going to have to be very careful with this 2 different, or actually 3 obstacles actually, which are the laser and the fire, or the flamethrower, I like to say, and also the giant bottomless pit. So if you fall off, then you have to redo the whole fight again. Well, luckily you don't have to deal with the Death Ball all over again, so even then though, you have to deal with this fight in particular all over again. But this wasn't exactly over yet, because you have to actually attack Robotnik like a couple of times more left until you actually release the Master Emerald out of it. And if you do so, then if you actually obtain all 7 of these Chaos Emeralds or the Super Emeralds, it doesn't matter what collectibles you'll be getting, you might actually get yourselves the final zone in the game, which was known as the Doomsday Zone, which is only exclusive that Sonic can actually able to actually explore in this particular level. So this is actually the first time ever in the Sonic series to actually feature the Super Transformations final boss battle, which it will actually becomes laterable in the later games, which is from Perfect Chaos from Sonic Adventure, the Final Hazard from Sonic Adventure 2, and also Metal Overlord in Sonic Heroes, Solaris from Sonic 06, and the Dark Gaia, the Perfect Dark Gaia most likely in Sonic Unleashed, and vice versa, and the list goes on. But every now and then, they decide to actually manage to let you actually play as Super Sonic in every single levels, just like in the old days. So anyway, for this particular fight, it does remind me of almost related to the final boss battle from Sonic Rush, and even a 3D perspective from the Sonic Unleashed, specifically the HD version for the Xbox 360 and PS3 version. For this first part, you have to all you do is collect enough rings until you actually just manage to survive from this fight, and at the same time actually dodge these little meteor rocks and all that kinds of stuff. And here, this is where we actually going to be faced off against with 2 phases with this true final boss battle. It's the fact that you, in this first segment, is that you're gonna have to guide these rockets all the way to its weak spot, which is actually this little grey metallical face. Which, if you actually try to damage that, then that's how you deal the damage of him. So, but even then, as I mentioned this earlier, there are a grand total of 2 different phases in order to actually deal with this final boss battle. Although, to be fair, as long as you actually dodge these little rocks and all that kinds of stuff, even though rocks might actually temporarily slow you down, but even then, though, as long as you actually get quite a few hits on this guy, then you're pretty much going to be able to actually deal with the final part of the fight, which is essentially the main Robotnik's robot itself. It kind of reminds me like a Death Egg robot for some reason, but except the fact that it doesn't have claws, instead it has proper hands. So in this particular phase, you're going to have to dash right towards him, and that's all you're supposed to do here. And while doing so is by actually dodging a lot of bombs you actually just managed to dispute out from, and that's all there's to it with this phase. So, and as a result though, if you did not have any rings with you, then obviously you have to redo the whole fight again. So, just want to clarify that until now. So, yeah, that's all there is to it with the Doomsday Zone, basically. So, there we go. That concludes the true best ending of the Sonic's playthrough, anyway, for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. And yeah, if this is what happens if you either get the 7 Chaos Emeralds or the 7 Super Emeralds. I believe if you get yourselves the best ending, you must able to collect all 7 of these Super Emeralds. That you're able to actually manage to get the Master Emerald back from Eggman, and basically, or Robotnik, I should say. And then basically you have to deliver the Master Emerald back into Angel Island. That's what Knuckles' home place is about. And I believe, taking a note from Sonic Adventure story developing wise, is the fact that once the Master Emerald's been placed, I believe the Angel Island will actually rise all the way back up into the skies. Which I believe makes perfect sense to me, so anyway. And then also, there's actually the normal ending. In order to actually get the normal ending, which, by the way, in order to actually notice something right off the bat, though, is the fact that this game actually has 3 endings instead of the usual 2, unlike how it does in Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, and even Sonic CD. Because I mentioned this earlier about the best ending is by basically go after, or actually restoring all 7 of these Super Emeralds, and you get yourselves this lovely best ending right there. And Knuckles is actually seeing Sonic and Tails flying away, means that you did really well, I'm assuming. So, and thank you for restoring my island, for my Angel Island though. So, anyway though, so... and basically this will actually transport you into your usual staff quest as you expected, so yeah, as for the normal ending, that what happens was though is that if you get all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds, if you couldn't bother to get the Super Emeralds, what that shows the footage of is basically just an Eggman or the Egg Robo is about to come back to life and have a personal revenge on Sonic and Tails and all that stuff, so... And as for the bad ending, if you did not get all the Chaos Emeralds, all the Super Emeralds, then obviously the Master Emeralds flying away, and then the Angel Island was not restored. keyboard, and also not to mention that it shows the image of Dr. Robotnik with the Master Emerald itself. So this means is that you're not actually restoring the piece together. So, and if you ever played the original Sonic 3 alone, that the bad ending usually showcased the both Robotnik and Knuckles, while Knuckles usually juggles the Chaos Emeralds, which does reminds me of almost related to the Sonic 1's bad ending of the that particular part. And yeah, that's all I can really think about this. So yeah, so what do I think about the overall of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles as far as the actual true Sonic 3 game? Easily, without a doubt, it's one of my favorite Sonic games I've ever played. And probably one of my second favorite game, or no, not my second, probably one of my favorite Sonic the Hedgehog games of all time. I really love the level layout as it actually plays out, and also the level style in the visual standpoint. If you ever played the HD TV, it's absolutely incredible. Huge step up to Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. Well, despite the fact that in Sonic 2 has some really lovely color palettes, while in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, as well as the game all in one, oh man, it looks absolutely beautiful. And also the frame rate is actually pretty nice and solid as well. And also the soundtrack, as you expected in any other 2D Sonic games at this point, is absolutely incredible. And finally, the story is very cool, and even a nice looking story presentation as far as this is concerned. In introduction to Knuckles the Echidna, as far as the additional stuff as far as they're concerned. And also the controls is absolutely sweet as well, so even then though, you should definitely recommend playing through Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. At least as far as if you actually purchased Sonic 3 cartridge and even Sonic and Knuckles cartridge. So even then, I should definitely just put those two games combined into one. So yeah, that's all there is to it for Sonic's playthrough. So join me next time on Let's Play Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Is the fact that we're going to be showcasing the competition mode. So even then though, unfortunately I have to use it on Sonic 3 alone. So we'll discuss more on that later. So see you guys then.